Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy, and we're on the start of the week session Forex Trading Room for September 8th of 2019. We'll go through our usual agenda, look at the prior week, our currency strength meter for the past 37 days, our fundamental calendar for the week, a look at the major pairs on the dailies, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Starting with our ledger, the long-term ledger, not much change. We did have a few trades close out. None of them were big winners or losers. We ended up a little bit behind by just a handful of pips on these trades that closed. But nothing, as I said, significant. We're a little bit above break even on the account, and we do have two new trades that were opened this week, going long on the pound as the market completely reversed after a few upsets in the British Parliament, which we'll cover in a later slide as we review the movements of the different currencies throughout the week. So not much change to the long term. Intermediate term, a few trades got closed out, giving us a very tiny boost, not much. I guess the highlights were that we did take profit on the euro-dollar trade that had been running for a while. So that one got taken out at 100 pips of profit. We closed out pound Swiss as well. A short with quite a good profit, actually, right as the market shifted. So our trailing stop took us out of that short, and then we immediately went long on the pound as we saw the new lay of the land. And those two trades, pound dollar and euro pound, are carrying quite a nice chunk of profit, as is the last trade on the list, or the USD CAD. The Canadian dollar did make a move into strength after a fundamental announcement early on in the week, and we've been riding that one down since then. And we also have an older Euro-Swiss trade, which is slightly underwater right now. I think it was carrying 40 pips negative last time I checked. So 4 trades open, 3 of them nicely positive, and 1 carrying a very small open loss. We are maintaining ourselves above the 50% growth on this account, and with the open trades we are closer to 60% at this point, but of course we can't count on any of that until the trades actually get closed and we book the profit. And last but not least, a short term, another positive week as we recover. We're still a little bit underwater on the account by about $12. So essentially we're flat on this account for the year right now. We have had a couple of good weeks back to back, which have recovered this account nicely. We have been down about, I'm going to say about 5 or 6% overall on the deepest drawdown we've had on this account, or indeed on any of them so far. So nice to see it coming back into health, and of course we'll have to see what this new week brings. We did have a 3.52% gain on this account. Well, you can see the parameters here on the screen. So not a huge movement, but still we did take advantage of it. And most of it came from, of course, the movement on the pound. That was really a nice boost to the, we traded the pound dollar twice on this account. In fact, both of them at profit, and pound JPY added a little bit there as well. Nothing other major there. So moving on to our notes and opportunities for improvement. Of course, the market did wake up with a vengeance, especially on the pound pairs, as Boris Johnson's plans got quashed in Parliament and the pound has reversed course. We're no longer bearish on the pound until this situation fulfills or ends up doing whatever it's doing. It does not look like there is going to be a Brexit this year. The earliest is probably going to be January. And we've been, or they've been rather, I've had nothing to do with it. They've been delaying it every 3 months. They just kick the can further down the road. At this point, I don't even think Brexit is going to happen either. It's going to be postponed indefinitely, or they will end up revoking Article 50. If Boris Johnson's government does fall, and there will be a vote for an election tomorrow, so we'll have to see how that ends up. But if they do have an election and the Tories get voted out of office, the likelihood of Brexit even happening is pretty much nil. So we've got that. That obviously is propping up the pound. It is giving a nice boost to the pound right now. And we are, again, trading it into pound strength for the first time, I think, this year. A nice boost on the accounts this week that just ended for the most, and it looks like that is likely to continue given current market sentiment and events. Again, especially on the pound. We'll be trying to ride that new trend as far and as high as we can. As I said, this is another key week for Brexit as Parliament is voting tomorrow on holding a snap election. Other movements are also happening on diverse geopolitical events. The yen has been moving up and down. The euro is weakening. The Canadian, of course, as mentioned, is moving yet again into strength. We'll see how long that lasts, but a lot of stuff going on. So we had a couple of very flat, stagnant weeks, 3-4 weeks back. That seems to have definitely ended, and we're looking at a little bit more excitement. And, of course, the huge storm that was bearing down on the U.S. did come in and did nothing much, but now we have another huge storm bearing down in Japan, and they are evacuating parts of Tokyo already, as I heard on the news earlier today. So we'll see if that has any effect on the yen as the week progresses. Relative strength meter for the last 30 days and the last week, we can see that the monthly remains very pale colored, except for silver. Silver was the big mover in the last 30 days, continues being so. So most of that 8.79% volatility or movement that we've seen in the market can be attributed primarily to silver. Obviously, there have been other movements. The pound, of course, has moved, the Australian, but the deep blue, you can only see it on the silver column. Looking at the weekly, a little bit more activity. We now see dark shades on multiple columns. This last week, the Australian got stronger, the Canadian got stronger, the pound obviously got stronger, the Kiwi got stronger, and then we had a few losers along the way. The yen definitely gave up ground. The Swiss and the euro were pretty middle of the pack, but did weaken somewhat. And indeed, I see the euro weakening strongly against quite a few of the currencies there, specifically the Kiwi, the Aussie, the pound, and the Canadian. And this week was not good for the metals. So this is probably the first pullback week we've seen in quite a while on silver and gold. Both of them ended up in the red. And the U.S. dollar did poorly as well, winning out really only against the yen. Our calendar of announcements for the week, pretty busy calendar, and we will be trading 3 of these live. On Monday, tomorrow, as I mentioned, we have the parliamentary vote on Brexit and on the election that's going to be happening at 2 p.m. So we will be trading that one live. We also have the ECB interest rate decision coming out on Thursday at 7:45 a.m. So we'll also be trading that one. And last but not least, that same morning, we will have the ECB monetary policy statement and press conference happening about 45 minutes after the interest rate decision is announced. So we'll be sticking around for both of them, the interest rate itself and then the press conference. And that pretty much wraps up the week's calendar. There's a few other things there, but none that I would like to trade. The only exception to that would be the ILO unemployment rate out of the UK on Tuesday early morning. But given everything else that's happening in the UK, that one's very likely to just not do much of anything. There's bigger fish to fry in the UK right now. And with that, we move on to our chart, starting with our oil. Oil has been pretty flat for about the past couple of months, just moving up and down in a band. It is still staying above that level of support at the 54.75 and pretty much traveling alongside the Ichimoku cloud. It's not getting any weaker. That's a but there's still quite a ways to go before it climbs back up to where it was. Euro dollar also continues waving up and down, but always in a downward pattern. So we're getting the lower highs, lower lows. This week was a retracement as the dollar weakened against the euro significantly. It did bounce off the top of the channel and ended the week nicely within the channel. So we'll have to see what this new week brings us. Obviously, we're going to be keeping a close eye on both the euro and the dollar. The pound dollar, and we'll see this on all the pound charts, the pound did regain, as mentioned, quite a bit of strength. It actually broke a level of resistance and is now inside the Ichimoku cloud. I would not, well, let me put it this way. Right now I'm long on the pound, so I am trading this one up. I don't think the movement has stopped. It did a little bit of a retrace on Friday, which again is perfectly normal. And obviously, we'll have to be paying close attention to how the week begins. Market is open. I took a look at the activity right before this meeting, and so far there hasn't been any movement in either direction. So I'm going to be a waiting game. But we are already long on this pair. USD JPY, well, the yen weakened against the dollar significantly. Probably the only ones where the dollar came out ahead is going to be against the JPY. It did retrace all the way up to the Ichimoku cloud and retrace slightly back down on Friday. Another one where we'll have to keep a close eye on what's going to be happening as the week begins. I do expect to see yen strength at some point in the near future. It doesn't have to be this week, but this is probably going to give us a good opportunity to trade it back down to the prior low. USD Canadian, after their interest rate decision last week, where they did not change the rate at all, it still resulted in the CAD getting significantly stronger against pretty much every currency out there. Possible exception being the pound, which was also getting stronger at the same time. More importantly, the USD CAD did break through several levels of support and actually crossed the Ichimoku cloud on Friday. We're carrying an open trade on the USD CAD at a pretty good level of profit right now, and we're still expecting it to continue in our direction. That trade, I think, is already protected, so if we do see a retrace, we will be getting out at profit. USD Swiss open trade on the long term, our deepest loser right now, about 180 pips negative, went much deeper on Friday and then retraced back into the Ichimoku cloud. So we're still seeing it maintain itself below resistance, but it is getting a little bit dicey. That said, these retracements on the Swiss don't tend to last all that long. It's pretty much getting to its limit. We'll have to see if that plays out this week or in one of the coming weeks. So long as it doesn't hit our stop loss, I will be letting this trade just continue doing what it's doing. Eventually, well, it'll either give us a nice chunk of profit or it will take us out. Aussie dollar, also one of those pairs that moved into dollar weakness. So the Aussie has gained against the dollar, but it hasn't broken any key levels of resistance. It's still below the Ichimoku cloud. It's below that next level of resistance. And I would not be surprised to see this one take a trip back towards the bottom, especially with all the fundamental stuff we know about the Australian economy right now. I don't see any reason why this one should be getting stronger against the dollar. So keeping a close eye on it for when it turns, and we'll be ready to trade it down. Kiwi dollar, same thing. It's had a nice little bit of a run. The Kiwi itself did gain strength throughout the week for whatever reason against pretty much every currency cross out there, the dollar being no exception. But again, another one that is very far from the Ichimoku cloud and has not managed to convincingly pierce any of the levels of resistance that are near to where price action is traveling right now. So again, I would not be going long on this one just yet. I would be waiting a little bit more to see what's going on, and I'd be far more likely to trade it down if we do see a turnaround. Aussie Canadian continues traveling flat, and these flat charts are actually probably the ones we should be focusing on the most, and we do. But whenever something is flat like this, that's when you have to be really on the lookout for when it starts breaking out in either direction. We don't care which way it goes. The only thing we care is that we do have a breakout. And whenever I see a flat chart, that just makes my everything turn on. So obviously we'll be waiting until the breakout does happen, but these flat charts are where most of your potential is going to be happening in the well, whenever it wakes up, a near or intermediate future, but always keep an eye on these. Euro Swiss, same thing, except we're already short on the Euro Swiss. We did take some profit off of the long-term account this week as it retraced. We were short. But then we entered, we also had a trade on the intermediate term account. That's our one losing trade right now on that account, carrying about 40 pips negative. Again, it is traveling very flat, and we are waiting for a breakout for a longer term trade. But we'll keep the intermediate term trade open until it, well, it either fulfills or it takes us out. Euro pound, one of the better movers towards the end of the week as the pound regained a bunch of strength. So it has crossed 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of support, including the Ichimoku cloud. It did bounce off the next level of support at the 89.35 on Thursday, then did a bit of a retrace on Friday. But as I said, I am expecting the pound to continue gaining strength as the possibilities of Brexit get pushed further and further away. So this thing may reach the bottom of the chart, and indeed that is my target on those longer term trades, is the 84, 75, 85 area down towards the bottom. So no change to that. We'll just keep those trades open and let them rack up the profit. Euro JPY, another one that was traveling very flat, did do a breakout, gave us a new low, and then wrapped up or popped back up this week above support yet again. So crossed resistance, ended up above that level of support. And, well, again, the yen weakened against pretty much everybody else this week. So that's just to be expected. But still a very bearish chart. So definitely not something I would be trying to trade long right now. Just wait for the next opportunity to go short. Euro Canadian, typical of the CAD pairs. We did see a breakout this week as the CAD moved in strength. It broke through support. We're already in an open trade on the long-term account, trading it down, so all is well there. And we're waiting to see how long this movement actually lasts. So too soon to tell, but it is starting to look good. Pound JPY, the yen weakened, pound gained strength, so this one went into overdrive in the opposite direction, so it went up. It did finally hit resistance at the Kumo, at the Ichimoku cloud, as well as that horizontal at the 131.80. As I said, I fully expect the pound to continue gaining strength, so this one should continue heading up, and we're already in a long-term trade on the pound JPY precisely, trying to capture as much of that movement as we can. And, well, like I said, we'll have to pay attention to Parliament and everything else coming out of the UK. But so far, the possibility of all these pound pairs going back towards the top is pretty high, and that is the direction we're trading. Aussie JPY, what can I say? Yen weakness, Aussie strength, that contributed to this one going back to prior levels of resistance. It did get stopped by the Ichimoku cloud on Friday, and we'll have to see whether it has the strength to keep going, or more likely, this is my bias, is that this one will head back towards the bottom at some point in the near future. Euro New Zealand, Kiwi strength, as I mentioned, plus Euro weakness. So this one has gone back to a prior trend line and is very close to the top of the Ichimoku cloud. I am very skeptical of the possibilities of this one continuing to head towards the bottom. No open trades right now, but I would be far more likely to trade it up than down. However, If it does cross the Ichimoku cloud, all bets are off, and I will start shorting this thing and see how far down it can possibly go. Pound Canadian, this is a very odd pair. So we had obviously pound and Canadian strength playing out last week. So we can see that initially the pound was winning that fight, and it went up all the way into the Ichimoku cloud. And then on Friday, the CAD gained the upper hand, and it dropped. It undid the last day of trading, so it pretty much ended at those prior levels of support resistance, the trend line, the horizontal, and the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud. I purposely did not trade this one for that reason. I really hate trading a strong currency against another strong currency. As usually, this is what happens. They start going in both directions. So I'm staying out of this for that reason, probably for the remainder of the week until one of them really gains the upper hand and we can see some trending happening. But as you can see, this one is already going sideways as we speak. And last but not least, our pound Swiss. Again, pound strength was the name of the game last week, and this one has gone all the way back into the Ichimoku cloud. I think we have a long-term trade on this one as well, trying to trade it back up to, well, as far as it goes. The Swiss and the yen are going to be in a very awkward position if the pound continues gaining strength. And this is because both currencies are safe havens for the United Kingdom, more so the yen than the Swiss, but still there is a Swiss component there. So if confidence returns to the market as regards to pound, we're going to see money start flowing back from Japan and Switzerland into the pound. And this one may take a really big hit, as in it may go all the way to the top quite easily. So that was another reason why this was one of those pairs I picked as our long-term plays on the pound. And that is the end of our chart setups we see in progress for the week. Obviously, the UK, the pound. So the pound reversed this week that just ended for clearly fundamental reasons that I explained. Pretty much Brexit is receding over the horizon, and I have no confidence that Brexit will even happen. But if it does happen, it will not be happening this year. And we are expecting that to continue unless, again, something fundamentally changes and Brexit gets put back on the table. Tomorrow is a key day, so please pay attention to what's going on in the House of Commons and House of Lords and whatnot. Voting, I think, is scheduled for 2 p.m. And we normally don't have a 2 p.m. session on Mondays, but we will tomorrow. I'll probably be opening up the trading room about half an hour before that, and we'll see what's going on. The Swiss pairs, as I said, the Swiss is struggling to maintain strength, mainly because its status as a safe haven currency is actually hurting it right now as the pound recovers strength. So the Swiss is struggling, it's bouncing. Longer-term trades are probably safer, and indeed I have at least one long-term trade open on the Swiss pairs, but short-term is probably going to be bouncy. The CAD, it made a strength play this week after that key fundamental. As always, we trade these movements. We have to trade every single breakout that happens. But we have to be cautious initially until these trends confirm. We have to be ready to get out at a moment's notice. And I always try to adjust my stop loss to break even or even to protecting some profit as quickly as we can. The yen also at a crossroads for the same reason as the Swiss. Its status as a safe haven is not helping it right now. And global events, the trade wars with China and this, that, and the other continue to just move it in both directions. So another one that's probably more susceptible to shorter term trading if we see a good movement starting, but I wouldn't trust it for too long as it is very bouncy. The euro, last but not least, euro is clearly struggling. We have seen weakness from the euro out against most of the other crosses. And this week has a couple of very key announcements coming out of the ECB. So it will be an interesting week for the euro as well. I have to be careful trading it before the announcements, but we will be trading anything that looks like a likely winner. And that is the end of our review for the week, and some parting words. And I always try to stress this very frequently. I predict that the market is going to fluctuate. That's the only prediction that anybody can make about the market. And I do this today because I'm often asked, and last week was no exception, and people ask me quite seriously what I think the market is going to do next week or next month or in the next 3 months. Every successful trader is going to get asked this question. As soon as people see you making money in the market, they're going to think that you have some sort of crystal ball. JP Morgan was probably the first guy to document being asked that question, and his answer, which I copied, where they asked, hey, JP, what's the market going to do next week? He said, the market will fluctuate. That's the only thing we can be sure of. Now, I don't get into any trades, and you guys know this. You've been with me long enough. I don't get into any trade because I predict that the market is going to move in that direction. I get into a trade when I clearly see that the market is already moving in that direction. Then I try to ride that movement as far as it goes. And even then, and you guys have seen this, not all trades work out. Sometimes it's a fake out instead of a breakout. But enough of them do work out to the point where we make some very nice profit just by repeating this again and again and again. So the moral of the story is learn to be on the lookout for these breakouts, because they are the ones that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. You can trade other things in the market, the bounces, the retracements, but breakouts are the ones that can quite easily add a couple of hundred to even 500 or more pips to a single trade. Not all breakouts are going to work out, but when they do work out, they're amazing. So those are my parting words here in conclusion. And with that, I open up the floor to any comments or questions from anyone. Okay, then thank you very much. I will be sending a recording out of this within the next hour or so, and I will see you tomorrow. Remember, we will be having an afternoon session due to the parliamentary vote on Brexit and the snap election. So that will be, the schedule will be included in the email that goes out. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.